In response to alarming violations of airspace, the European Union formally launches an initiative to establish a drone wall along the bloc's eastern flank. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu attacks the recognition of a Palestinian state during his fiery speech at the UN that saw dozens of delegates walk out. The European Union has formally launched an initiative to establish a drone wall along the bloc's eastern flank, a groundbreaking step being taken amid alarming violations of airspace at the hands of Russia. The inaugural meeting, chaired by the European Commission, brought together 10 member states. Ukraine was also invited to participate. Friday's launch comes on the heels of a series of airspace violations that have put the entire continent on maximum alert. The first incursion occurred in Poland 2 weeks ago when 19 Russian drones flew over national territory and prompted a scramble to shoot them down. Romania, Estonia, and this week, Denmark have all seen drone incursions, something the Kremlin denies responsibility for. Discussions are meant to continue next week during an informal summit of EU leaders in Copenhagen, where the topic is set to feature high on the agenda. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday at the UN General Assembly berated the recognition of a Palestinian state by multiple Western countries, vowing to finish the job of eliminating Hamas. Netanyahu described the Palestinian state's recognition as a mark of shame that suggested, quote, murdering Jews pays off.
Please order in the hall and please be seated.
Well, I have a message for these leaders. When the most savage terrorists on earth are effusively praising your decision, you didn't do something right. You did something wrong, horribly wrong. Your disgraceful decision will encourage terrorism against Jews and against innocent people everywhere. It will be a mark of shame on all of you.
Dozens of delegates and diplomats staged a walkout as Netanyahu gave his address, leaving large parts of the conference hall empty. In its reaction to Netanyahu's speech, Hamas described the walkout as showcasing Israel's isolation due to the war in Gaza.
It's a truly historic and shocking decision. A Paris court sentenced former President Nicolas Sarkozy this Thursday to 5 years in prison for criminal conspiracy in an alleged scheme to finance his 2007 presidential election campaign using Libyan money in exchange for diplomatic favors. However, the former French president was acquitted of the other 3 charges. But what's really striking about this Thursday's decision is that the judge requested for a deferred detention order with immediate effect. This means that Nicolas Sarkozy will be summoned on October 13 to find out about the date and conditions of his incarceration, which cannot be avoided even if he appeals. His imprisonment would be a first in French modern political history. But at 70 years old, however, the former French president could request a conditional release. Here are some of his first words after he found out about the sentencing.
Je demande aux Français qu'ils aient voté ou non pour moi, qu'ils me soutiennent ou non, d'apprécier ce qui vient de se passer. La haine n'a donc décidément aucune limite. J'assumerai mes responsabilités. Je déférerai aux convocations de la justice. Et s'ils veulent absolument que je dorme en prison, je dormirai en prison. Mais la tête haute. Je suis innocent.
The court also imposed a 5-year ban from holding public office as well as a €100,000 fine. The judge said that they could not prove that Libyan money ultimately funded Sarkozy's 2007 campaign, but emphasized that conspiring to commit corruption is a crime in itself under French law. Sarkozy said that he plans to appeal this decision. This verdict adds to Sarkozy's growing legal troubles. He has already been convicted in 2 other cases. The Big Malian affair for his 2012 illegal presidential campaign financing, as well as the so-called Bismuth case involving corruption and influence peddling. Sofia Katzenkova reporting from Paris for Euronews.
The global Sumud flotilla says its main vessel, the family boat, will not continue towards Gaza after suffering a serious mechanical failure in Crete. Activists on board have been moved to other ships as the convoy, which includes climate activist Greta Thunberg, repairs damage from recent drone attacks. The family boat was hit by a drone earlier this month, one of the several assaults targeting the humanitarian convoy as it tries to break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. Italy's President Sergio Mattarella has appealed directly to activists on board to accept an offer from the Catholic Church. The Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem has said it would take the aid the flotilla is carrying for Gaza and deliver it. Both Italy and Spain have deployed ships for potential rescue and assistance. Portugal has ruled out a military escort for the boats, despite several Portuguese nationals on board. The flotilla has vowed to continue its mission despite setbacks, delays, and what it says is political pressure. The boats are currently in waters off Crete before they begin their next push towards Gaza. US President Donald Trump on Thursday signed an executive order he says will allow TikTok to continue operating in the US. The Chinese-owned social media app's future was at stake after US officials raised data security concerns. Trump's order will enable an American-led group of investors to buy the app from China's ByteDance, though the deal is not yet finalized and also requires China's approval. Under the terms of the deal that have so far been revealed by the White House, the app will be spun off into a new US joint venture owned by a consortium of American investors, including tech giant Oracle and investment firm Silver Lake Partners. Vice President J.D. Vance said there was some resistance to the agreement from the Chinese side, although he did not elaborate what Beijing's opposition was to the deal. TikTok's future in the US was unclear after former President Joe Biden signed legislation last year announcing that it would halt operations unless sold to an American firm. Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on charges of making false statements and obstruction tied to his testimony before Congress in 2020. Prosecutors say he lied about whether he authorized links of classified information during hearings linked to the Russia investigation, the same probe into Donald Trump's 2016 campaign that the former president has long dismissed as a hoax. The indictment comes just days after Trump urged his attorney general to prosecute Comey. Trump called the charges justice for the U.S. Comey is the first senior official tied to the Russia probe to face prosecution, raising concerns that the Justice Department is being weaponized for political ends. It's a subject that has caused a stir in French politics, the so-called Zucman tax. The proposal, devised by economist Gabrielle Zucman, suggests that tax households that own more than €100 million in assets contribute at least 2% of their wealth every year. It aims to restore a greater amount of tax justice, whilst at the same time generating revenue as France struggles to balance its budget.
The first one is that it's a very popular measure. So like the latest poll that I've seen, I think placed it at like an approval rate of like 86% across the population and also importantly across the political spectrum. The second thing is that it does respond to a problem. So the problem being the ultra-rich pay less.
According to Zucman, the scheme would make it possible to make up part of France's deficit without making deep budget cuts. The tax could bring in around 20 billion euros for the French government. The cumulative effect at an EU level would be even greater. It's estimated that such a tax would bring in 67 billion euros for member states. But other economists say that these figures don't add up.
On n'arrivera pas à 20 milliards, ça j'y crois absolument pas. Alors certaines estimations arrivent plutôt à 5 milliards, mais moi je me pose même des questions. Je pense qu'il est même possible que ça ne rapporte rien. Parce qu'il y a, comme je le disais, il y a une dynamique d'ajustement du comportement qui est souvent très sous-estimée par les économistes, qui font que les personnes ne se laissent pas faire. Il y a des stratégies qui sont utilisées pour essayer d'éviter cet impôt-là.
In Europe, Spain has had a solidarity tax on large fortunes for 3 years. Norway and Switzerland also apply a tax on very high incomes. But these two countries have particularly high financial resources. Other countries have a partial taxation of the ultra-rich, such as France, Belgium, the Netherlands and Italy, which tax very specific assets.
Storm Gabrielle reached Portugal's Azores Islands late Thursday into the early hours of Friday morning, reaching a speed of 185 kilometers per hour and causing over 100 incidents. According to Portugal's civil protection, there had been 4 cases of damage to homes. Of the 103 incidents, 49 were resolved according to the civil protection update. Most reports were of falling trees, poles and damage to a roof, with no casualties being reported. Ahead of the cyclone's arrival, the meteorological agency, IPMA, placed the islands on red alert, the highest emergency level used only for weather events carrying extreme risk. Portuguese authorities also cancelled all tourist and recreational activities for 24 hours, shuttering schools and public services and urging people to stay indoors. The Azores, known for their lush volcanic landscape, rainy weather and free grazing cows, are home to about 250,000 people.